Okay, and we should be live. Good morning, everybody. My name is Mark Napper, your host for What's New in AWS by AWS Enterprise Support. It is Friday, the 11th of March, 11 a.m. Sydney time. We've got a bit of sun in the sky, which is a great break from all this rain we've been having. And it's really great to have you with us. As I said in my LinkedIn video, we've had 271 new releases since January 1. And there's a lot there, but we don't expect that you'll read all of them. And so we've put this 30, 40 minutes together so that you can join us and find out what we think are our, what are the releases that you should know about this month. As always, I've got my my trusty hosts with us. We've got Matthew dialing in from Brisbane. G'day, Matthew.
Hey, Mark.
Good morning, Rovan. Nice pink shirt
Howdy,
there.
how are we going?
Great. Yeah, really good. Really good. And Carlos calling us from the Hilton or the Ritz.
Live from the Ritz.
Just to keep it interesting. Good morning, everyone, and happy belated New Year.
Good to see you all. All right, so Matt, Rovan, and Carlos are going to cover some compute database and security releases for us. But first up, we've got a special guest today, Paul Colmer, dialing in from Brisbane, I believe. Paul, how are you doing?
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm fantastic. It's Friday, so what better way to cap off the end of the week but with a bit of a live stream. So thanks for inviting me in. It's been fantastic.
Oh, you're welcome, Paul. It's great to have you here, and thanks for joining us last time on the reInvent recap for some of the machine learning releases. I know this is your wheelhouse. So let's get into it. SageMaker Autopilot. SageMaker Autopilot's been around for a while. Let's maybe talk about what that does for customers first, because it's pretty new. This sort of approach of not needing code or not needing to be a data scientist now to be able to use machine learning, right? So what is SageMaker Autopilot? Why would customers want to use this service?
Yes, so the great thing about the Amazon SageMaker Autopilot, like you said, it's part of our low-code, no-code suite of offerings. And the great thing it does is it uses automated or auto ML, automated machine learning, to help build, train, and tune models based on your data. It's a great product.
Okay, so all of the stuff you have to do to get your data ready, so data validation, and then selecting the algorithm, hyperparameter tuning, all of those pieces is, do people have to worry about that, or does the service take care of it?
Yeah, well, the great thing about SageMaker Autopilot is it makes some of those things more accessible to businesses. So it automatically handles, like you outlined, some of those complex tasks that are associated with deep data science expertise. So it does things like you said, feature engineering, cross-validation. The hyperparameter tuning is amazing. It even helps you choose your algorithm based on the data that you feed into the model. It's awesome.
Yeah, which is important because there's a growing number of models, right? And you mentioned when we were looking at this service initially, you mentioned that there's now an explainability report. We'll get to what these new metrics are for the release, but I think for people to understand what the explainability report is might be useful. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Absolutely, yes. So the explainability report is something that comes out of a product called SageMaker Clarify. And what we've done at AWS, we've built that into Autopilot. So once, like you said, we've been through the feature engineering, cross-validation, we can run up to 250 training runs, and it automatically selects, and then it deploys the best model. Now, the important thing about the explainability report is it shows precisely the steps that the machine learning, the auto ML has been through to decide which candidate models it should run and then to choose that best model. It also illustrates the scoring, and it also shows all of the code that was used to actually derive the different models. So it's really important from an explainability perspective because it shows the preciseness of what's happened, and it allows complete model transparency. So for data scientists, there's no guesswork. You can see exactly what the training has done.
Yeah, I can imagine that's super useful. But what about the model performance itself, right? So I'm guessing that these metrics help you understand how well your model is performing. Is that right? Before we get into these three new metrics, maybe you could touch on what some of the existing metrics are and how people would use them.
Yes. So if we start a training job in autopilot, you're essentially building a new model. You simply select your S3 source bucket, your S3 target bucket, and then really importantly, you want to select the column that you want to predict. Once it's trained, it's really important to understand how it performed. Like you said, the metrics are really, really important. And the different metrics you want will depend on your business goals and the machine learning problem in hand. So 3 examples that already come with a SageMaker autopilot include the F1 score, the mean squared error, and the accuracy. And like you said, there are new metrics that have been released today, which I'm really excited to talk about.
Yeah. Let's maybe take a look at some images to help people understand what those 3 are. So there's the confusion matrix, which is in the top left hand corner, which is actually quite confusing when you start to dive into it. And then there are the 2 AUC, or area under the curve, graphs, the AUC ROC and the AUC PR. Maybe we'll start with the confusion matrix. And I like this as a visualization to understand the accuracy of your prediction. So if someone's looking at this confusion matrix, Paul, what should they look at first, and how should they try and read it?
Yep. So the first thing with a confusion matrix is it's designed to help us visualize the accuracy of predictions. It's used in both what we call binary and multi-class classification problems. Today, we're going to stay with binary classification. So the model that you see there is relating to helping to predict a target field. And if we look at the diagram itself, you'll see at the bottom is the predicted labels. That's the x-axis. And on the y-axis is the actual labels. And the 2 that we're really interested in maximizing are the bottom right and the top left. So true, true, and false, false. So predicted true, actual true, predicted false, actual false. And the 2 that we want to minimize are the bottom left and the bottom right. Now, the thing that is confusing about confusion matrices is sometimes those X and Y axes are swapped just to confuse you. And sometimes the words true and false might say 1 or 0. So it can be a little bit confusing.
Yeah, I think that's where I've been confused in the past. But to make it really simple, if the model was trying to predict, is this a photo of Paul Colmer, and it says false, we're predicting it's not, and it turns out that actually it wasn't, that would be a false false. And so you'd have that top left-hand corner there of 84.52%, which I assume is pretty good.
Yes. Yeah, so we look at this particular model and how it's performing. We've got false false at 84.52%, which is a good result. We've got true true at 10.59, and we can see that the false true, and I'm going to avoid false negatives and false positives, so I'm just going to keep it simple. False true,
keep it simple.
And true false, because I'll confuse myself. We want to make those numbers as low as possible. You're not going to get them down to 0, but you want to minimize that error. They're called type 1 and type 2 errors, effectively.
Gotcha. Okay, so this concept of never being at 100% or never being at 1, I think plays out in these next 2 graphs as well, right? Because if you look at that AUC ROC graph, maybe explain to people what that line in the middle is, that sort of dotted line sort of running through the middle there.
Absolutely. So what we've got, just in the middle bottom of the screen there, you're looking on the left here at true positive rates, and on the bottom you're looking at false positive rates. And what that's showing you is it's showing you the trade-off between true positive and false positive rates. So the orange line you're seeing represents an area in the curve of 0.5, which basically means a coin flip. So if you're flipping a coin and you're correct half of the time and you're incorrect the other half of the time, that's the line that you would see. So that's what you would get if you were guessing.
Right. Probably not great for a model. Yeah.
No, pretty bad actually. If your model's guessing and it's only getting an area on the curve of 0.5, that's not very good. What we can see on this graph, though, is this lovely blue line that's going up and across. And what we want to try and do with our model here is to try and maximize the area under the curve. So that area under the curve is 0.92. And that's given us a much better accuracy than just simply coin flips. Got it.
Understand. And then AUC PR, which I think is precision and recall, looks to be similar, but sort of curving down the other way. But again, you're still trying to maximize the area under the curve. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. So the principle is the same here. So we won't go into the details of what precision and recall are. They're basically just data science terms, but one is a trade-off of the other. So you can start to see that in that curve there. And again, we want to maximize the area under the curve. Here we're seeing an area under the curve of 0.86. We want to try and maximize that. If we had this running all the way across the top and all the way down the right-hand side, we'd have a error on the curve of 1. But the problem there, Mark, as you know, is we probably have an overfit model, which wouldn't generalize very well. It would have just remembered all the data points, and it would perform very badly in cross-validation and in testing.
Yeah, understood. All right, so 3 new metrics. Thanks, Paul. That's great. That gives people a lot more insight into what their model is doing and how it's performing. So nice one. Hopefully, we'll see you next month with some other machine learning and AI related releases. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you very much, Mark, and thanks everyone for listening. Thanks.
Yeah, cheers. All right, we'll bring in Carlos next for some database updates. So g'day, Carlos. G'day, Samir.
Good day, Mark. Thanks for that. Those are some really interesting metrics you highlighted for us. Yeah, I'll highlight the confusion matrix. Definitely confuses me from time to time as well. So yeah, definitely not alone. But that was pretty cool stuff there. Thanks for that.
No problem.
With me to talk about databases this month is Samir Kumar, who is a specialist TAM in the database space, working out of Singapore. And Samir works exclusively with our enterprise customers to really help improve, operational efficiency and scaling capabilities for our customers. So welcome, Samir.
Hey, hi everyone.
Awesome stuff. So Samir, look, after a huge wave of announcements at reInvent, the avalanche has kind of subsided on ideas. So I think we identified some really interesting releases that our customers can leverage. And the first one to kick things off is that I want to talk about AWS Document DB, which has a new release and is a service that provides a fully managed document database which supports MongoDB workloads, making it easy to store and query JSON data and leveraging the performance capabilities of our AWS infrastructure under the hood. So we just announced that we have a free trial on offer to our customers. And given what you're seeing in the field, Samir, how should our customers look to benefit from this?
Well, a free trial reduces the amount of investment for customers, especially who are looking to adopt a fully managed document database. It is equally useful for customers who are looking to migrate from another document database such as MongoDB, and same as customers who are planning to launch a new application on Amazon Document DB. If they want to migrate, they can try out Document DB with minimal cost risk. And Amazon Document DB continues to increase the compatibility with MongoDB APIs, which lowers the effort for migration. And with a free trial, we are further lowering the financial risk for our customers.
Yeah, I think we certainly are. And I guess it certainly gives customers an easier pathway to simply experiment with Document DB. But that brings me to think, what are some of the terms of this trial? How long is the trial, and what sort of instances and storage is available?
Sure. New customers are eligible for 750 hours of T3 medium instances. So Document DB works with a storage cluster volume which is distributed across multiple availability zones. It keeps 6 copies of whatever you're storing across 3 availability zones. This cluster volume is, and we charge customers only for 1 copy of data. So you get 5 GB of storage, and all the IOPS that are passed on to that storage, we charge for that as well. So you get 30 million IOPS in this free tier as part of the free trial, and 5 GB of backup storage for up to 30 days. This is a pretty good starting point for customers who want to explore Document DB, to run a POC, or to build a prototype application.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I guess, how would customers kick off this trial?
Well, eligible customers will be subscribed for a trial as soon as they create their first Document DB cluster, and when they create the instance with T3 medium size, that will also be subscribed to the free trial.
That's fantastic, and I guess customers can access this free trial in any region except for GovCloud and China.
Yes.
As you mentioned, by simply creating their first Document DB cluster.
Yep.
Now we have a few releases from RDS to go through. And the RDS Performance Insights team, which is our DB performance tuning and monitoring feature, they've announced support for query execution plan capture on Oracle for RDS. Now, this brings some help to engineers to identify any abnormalities in performance in query execution plans. So just to kind of level set and take a step back for those in the audience who may not be in the know, Samir, maybe can we just sort of explain what a query execution plan is?
Yeah, sure. Well, databases, you know, to a database, you pass a query, they execute the query, they give the result back to you, and they have this thing called as optimizer. Think of it as the brain of the databases. They prepare the plan of how to execute the query. This is where databases make a decision about how that query will be executed, whether to use a table scan or an index scan, what kind of join algorithm is going to be used. And sometimes these decisions may not be very accurate, and knowing that that decision is not accurate could be helpful in tuning performance, or knowing what's going on in the optimizer could help tune your query performance. Now, when typically what I used to do is, switch between back and forth between the database console and the and whatever monitoring tool I'm using, but now this feature brings it all together.
Yeah, that's pretty handy. So, I mean, let's dive deeper into some of the key use cases then of this feature that the new query execution plan capability presents to our customers in RDS Oracle.
Well, this feature will be extremely useful for the database administrators and developers who manage or use Oracle databases. We have performance insights, which uses database load as the central metric, and customers are already able to use database load and dissect or slice it by the query and look at specific queries that are contributing to the database load, what is the amount of load contribution by each query, and what specific wait event or bottleneck is contributing to that load. They can already do that from Performance Insights today. Now, with this new release, they will also be able to look at the query plan from the same dashboard, which makes the life of administrators and developers a lot easier when troubleshooting performance issues.
That's awesome, and I think we encourage our customers to move fast in a similar manner that we do. And I know for my customers, having a tool like this to immediately flag and identify these pain points will be gold, and the ops teams will really stand to benefit here.
Exactly.
Awesome stuff. So let's go on to the next release. Our RDS for SQL Server has announced that they now support always-on availability groups for standard 2017. And to me, this sounds like music to those running, SE 2017. And they really want to make sure that their solution runs at an enterprise grade level. What do you think about this release, Samir, and its potential to benefit our customers?
Right. I've interacted with a number of ANZ customers who are using SQL Server. Many of them, they use 2017 Standard Edition. And the biggest benefit here is the improved fault tolerance and reliability with always on.
Yeah. But again, we've supported always on, or we support high availability for SQL Server already. So with this, what are the changes in this particular release for customers who are currently already using 2017? What are they looking at here?
Yeah, you're right. We always supported high availability for RDS for SQL Server for Enterprise Edition, Standard Edition. Earlier, we used to support that using database mirroring, and then we started supporting always on. Customers using SQL Server Enterprise Edition with engine version 2016, 2017, and 2019, and also Standard Edition 2019, they can already leverage always on availability group for multi-AZ instances. Now, even the customers who are using SQL Server 2017 Standard Edition, they can also leverage multi-AZ deployments backed by always-on availability groups. One of the benefits, as I explained, is the faster failover when customers are using listener endpoint provided by always-on. That makes sure that application is able to recognize the failover much faster as compared to what the DNS-based change can do. In case of
that's pretty cool. So will this change actually be applied automatically for those customers already on SE 2017?
No. If customers are already on a version which supports always on, they will have to convert their instance to single AZ and then again enable multi-AZ configuration. That will make sure that they start using always on configuration now. If they are not on an engine version which supports always on today, then they will have to first upgrade, and then only they will be able to use always on.
Okay. Now we've got So we've got a question in the chat. They're asking if the availability groups support replicating Microsoft database, or does it behave the same as mirroring?
Replicating MSDB, or does it behave the same as mirroring? It should. It's native always on, so I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly.
Okay,
But
so we can probably
yeah,
just ask additional follow-up questions in the chat and get that
yep.
answered. But thanks for the question, Shane. Now I've got a bonus feature that released that was not on the slide here, but I just want to quickly talk about, and that's with MariaDB, where we've announced delayed replication support for MariaDB. So traditionally, we always think replication should be as fast as possible. However, this feature sounds like a handy tool to leverage as a safety net for DBAs. And in a way, it sounds like a level of security. Samir, how is this different from RDS read replicas, and how do you see this benefiting the customers in the field?
Yep. So you're right. Typically, you would want your read replicas to be as up to date as possible with the primary. We already support read replicas for MariaDB. Customers can create a fully managed read replica and offload read queries to that. And in that case, yes, you would want the replica lag to be as minimal as possible. But we have customers who also use read replicas as a disaster management strategy. And now customers who are using MariaDB 10.6.5 or higher, they'll be able to create a read replica from AWS console or AWS CLI, and then use a function RDS set configuration from the database after logging into the database, and introduce a lag or introduce a delay for replication. Now, this can be, as you said, this is kind of a safety net. Imagine someone drops a table. Now, only way to recover from that kind of data loss is to restore a database or do a point-in-time recovery, which can be a bit time-taking. With a delayed read replica, you can reduce the recovery time objective in such scenarios. And as I explained, to use this feature, customers have to create a read replica using console, and then they can just set the delay from the database itself.
Yeah, so being able to address that RTO target and having a manual way to configure the actual delay for replication is a really handy tool and a good introduction for MariaDB. Well, look, thanks so much, Samir, for your insights today. Really appreciate you joining the stream. And now we will be handing over to Mark Napoli.
All right.
Hey guys, there's just some follow-up questions in the chat. I thought perhaps, Samir, if you could take a look. So Shane's just asked, in mirroring, it does not replicate MSDB, which causes issues for customers with SQL agent jobs. He's wondering if AGs or availability groups fix that issue.
Okay. Okay. I'll have to check this out. Shane, you say that you are a support engineer, so let's follow it up offline. If you're an RDS support engineer, let's follow this up offline. Let's take it offline, and let's chat more about this.
No problem. Thanks, Samir. Thanks, Carlos. I'm just going to bring Paul back for a second. We did have a question before from Drukshad. Any recommendations on how SageMaker can best be leveraged from a contact center perspective? Drukshad's trying to find an AWS Connect-based success story, but he's not finding much out there. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so I think there's two ways that we can leverage machine learning. So I'll come to the SageMaker piece in a moment, but certainly with Amazon Connect, there's a whole range of different inbuilt services that already use machine learning. So ContactLens is a great example, which analyzes the tone and content of a conversation and is able to make decisions like, is the sentiment going bad? Do we need to bring in the call center manager, for example, to listen on a conversation? So that's one example of quite a few different features in Connect. The other way that you could use SageMaker in the context of Connect data is there's a really good white paper that I found that talks about how to create a data lake for all the different Amazon Connect data that you might wish to collect. Okay. You can then take the elements of that data lake, feed them into SageMaker, and then depending on what you're trying to do, it's very important to define that business goal. You could certainly derive some insights using Sage machine learning models. So there's a couple of ways that people can get started in that way.
Might get you to post that white paper link in the chat. Thank you, Paul.
Absolutely. No worries at all. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, cheers. Let's move over to security compliance with Rovan and Loy. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Thanks everybody for joining. I've just noticed new joiners on the channel. So we're going through what's new in AWS with enterprise support and covering all of the announcements from reInvent up till now. So if you join us, we are on YouTube and also Twitch channel. Mark and Carlos just covered databases and machine learning, so thanks for that. And we're about to kick off security and compliance. I must say, actually, I'm quite excited to be here today. Obviously, missing being on the channel and talk to you about AWS announcements. The other reason I'm quite excited about is having my special guest today, which is Leon. I don't think I will be able to give you justice, Leon, if I introduced you. So let's get you to introduce yourself.
Yep, thanks, Rowan and team. So hi everyone, really excited to be here today. So my name is Yang, and I am based out of Singapore as a security specialist under enterprise support to serve our customers across the region. And and of course, during my free time, I also have a small YouTube channel on cybersecurity, where we share about AWS security, where we share about ethical hacking and penetration testing. So yeah, we just crossed the 600,000 subscriber mark. So really excited to be here today, right, to share a little more about what's new, all right, in AWS security.
Yeah, awesome. I'm actually proudly one of those over 500,000 subscribers. Just watch your YouTube on Sunday. It's really good on live, so I would recommend everyone to jump on it. It has lots of in-depth details, actually, of some of the announcements we're going to talk about today. All right, so let's kick off. We have a very interesting announcement. This time you prepared three of us, Leon. One is Security Hub and Trusted Advisor now integrated with each other. Maybe let's start with what is Security Hub, what is Trusted Advisor, and what is really the difference between them?
Thanks, Ruben. Yep, definitely. There's a lot of questions regarding what's the difference between Security Hub and Trusted Advisor. Don't they both do security checks in our resources, looking out for compliance state? So what Security Hub does is that it not only is able to check for security controls and state for your resources, it can also be able to help you get or aggregate findings from all your threat detection services like GuardDuty, right, like Macy, like IAM Access Analyzer. So as we detect threats, we are likewise able to consolidate and aggregate all these findings together within Security Hub so that you can from there be able to know, all right, what is one, all right, the checks against security standards like Center for Internet Security, Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, as well as AWS Foundational Security Best Practices. At the same time, all right, you can consolidate all these findings from multiple accounts, all right, and then after which being able to have a bird's eye view of what's going on. For Trusted Advisor's case, all right, there's of course some overlap together in comparison to Security Hub. So in that case, Trusted Advisor is a focus, all right, on some of the critical forms of security findings that can possibly occur in your accounts, all right? So, and of course, in terms of number of security controls that you can have to do the detection, Security Hub is significantly more extensive, all right, in terms of looking out. And of course, there's also a severity ranking for many of these different types of findings, right? So that's the two main use cases between Security Hub and Trusted Advisor.
Awesome, thank you. It's really good actually to see this integration because for my customers, for example, I work with some of the financial sector customers, and we have lots of segregation of duties. You get customers or teams within these customers who only have access to security tools like Security Hub, for example, but not necessarily Trusted Advisor and all of the checks that it has. And then you got operations team might have access to Trusted Advisor, but not necessarily have access to a Security Hub. So have all of these 111 checks being integrated in Trusted Advisor is really good indication of any security risk that the operation team can also have a look into it and target it before it becomes a big issue. So it's really great integration to say. Awesome. So I guess if customers want to have the security configuration checks across multi-account, is that supported or it's based on one account per account.
Yep. Thanks, Robin. Yep. So absolutely, in the sense that both the services allow you to have, of course, in Trusted Advisor, you have the organizational view, so you can get all of the findings, right, from all of the accounts, and then they will then flow back up into the main account. So from there, then you'll be able to look at all these security checks, all right, across all of the accounts. And likewise for Security Hub, right, Security Hub, you can specify or assign a delegated administrator who would then begin collecting or getting all these findings being sent over into the delegated administrator account. And for Security Hub's case, all right, you definitely have to, there's another new feature just launched late last year, which is the ability, all right, to have a main region, which will then be able to get all the resource compliance state across multiple regions, all right, that you operate on. And then after which all of these findings will be sent over to the aggregated region. So that's the beauty of both Security Hub and Trusted Advisor. Yep.
Awesome. I guess it's really a great feature to have, and clarity and of one dashboard. First, have all of the security issues or security risk, which is Security Hub, bringing all of the security services like Macy and Config and other security services feeding into Security Hub, and at the same time as well gives this visibility to other tenants or teams who have access only to Trusted Advisor. So amazing. Moving to AWS Secret Manager. So it's a nice announcement over here. Maybe let's start with what is AWS Secret Manager, just for our customers who might haven't heard about it yet.
Yep. Thanks, Robin. So yeah, the whole idea of Secrets Manager, you can think of, for example, right, you have many accounts online and you have to save the password somewhere, right? So probably you may write it down on a piece of paper, or maybe you save it into an Excel or a Word document. And if that Word document or Excel or that piece of paper gets lost, then the bad guys will be able to access directly into your accounts. So in that case, what Secrets Manager can do for us is to secure these credentials that have access to databases, to application, to IT services, like your API keys and all of that. And it helps to manage these secrets throughout their life cycle. All right. So this can help eliminate, say, hard-coded, right, sensitive information in plain text or even in the app. And then all this could easily be reverse engineered, and it could lead to accidental disclosure of data or access to different AWS resources. So the whole idea of AWS Secrets Manager is to manage, all right, these secrets, these credentials throughout their whole life cycle. Yep.
Nice.
And I know that, yeah, you have a lot of customers that you work very closely with, and they have to manage all these credentials and secrets. Do any of them use Secrets Manager extensively, and why are they using it?
Yeah, so I've got multiple customers actually who use AWS Secrets Manager, and it's practically what they really like about it is the centralized capability, that they can centralize managing these access keys and have auditing and reporting on it. So it also integrates with logging, so you can check through the logs if there is any rotation, when it happened, and if it hasn't happened, what to do. So the centralization itself, most of the enterprise customers really like. And the other thing you've touched base on, that avoid having anyone to save secret keys in files on their computers or anywhere really. All of these credentials get saved centrally. It's also encrypted, so even if that file gets copied somewhere, no one will be able to make sense of it. So it makes the organization and resources very secure, and at the same time provides the right access and the right secret key to whatever application or APIs based on its permission. So that's why actually some of my customers using Secret Manager.
Okay, and I can also think of, thanks for sharing the use case with us, Robin. And another use case I can think of, and the request that we have seen, that resulted in the new feature of what we are showing here, all right, the rotation windows of Secret Manager is, perhaps there's a maintenance window that the team has to comply on. And usually it's, say, in the middle of the night, and they need to rotate those secrets. So you can now specify, all right, the window in which you want to rotate that secret. all right, or a set of secrets. So you can specify and say that, okay, between 1 a.m. to 3 a.m., all right, this is going to be our window for it, so that we can be aligned, all right, to maybe some of the organizational maintenance window and ensure that, all these are already being planned ahead of time. So, or of course, you can also specify them in cron, in the schedule expression that we have for our customers. Okay.
That's super cool. That's actually, it's good to see the ask from the customers and also the reflection of the request being achieved within Secret Manager. So appreciate that, and it's really a great announcement, I do believe. And if you having your secure access keys and security keys somewhere, please do not leave it there. It propose or actually get your environment to be imposed to lots of risk. So try to use an encryption tool to centralize all of these keys and encrypt it. It doesn't get leaked or anything like that. You can use AWS Secret Manager or different tool if you would like to. Right, moving to AWS WAF, and we've been having a couple of announcements, I guess, since reInvent about AWS WAF. So it's great to see how active this service, especially from a security perspective, and how can we help customers protect their public-facing workloads. So awesome. Let's maybe start first. What is different between the cloud native WAF, like AWS WAF, and the on-premise WAF?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So yeah, we get a lot of questions regarding, what's the differences, what's the advantage of using cloud native like AWS WAF. So with AWS WAF, all right, there's a lot of different capabilities that you can enable out of the box. And for one, when I first enable it for some of my own workloads, it could scale along with the demand that your workload has, right? So it could be a small project that you're starting out, it could be a mid-size or large-scale project or application that you deploy onto AWS. Whichever the case is, right? AWS WAF will scale along with your workload, right, to furnish those requests, right? So maybe it's 100 requests, all right, per 5 minutes. It could be 100,000 requests per 5 minute period. And then after which we're able to inspect, right, several of these requests are coming in, check them against different type of payloads or workloads. And that's really the beauty of it. And you can deploy them really quickly, right, in a few seconds to be associated with those different resources, and the protection kicks in within a few seconds. You can customize as well as use different kind of managed rules along within AWS WAF to protect your applications at scale.
Nice, that's really good. So if customers really gonna enable WAF, would they have to change any routing configuration?
Back to this question, right? The good point about AWS WAF is that you don't have to change any routing configuration. You don't have to change any of the code that you have in your application. You don't have to change the route, all right, that you have to have the WAF inline, and then you have to change from maybe your CDN and then to point to the WAF and so on and so forth. So you don't have to do any of that. So that's really one of the quickest way to set up protection against DDoS attacks, SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and all those different type of hacking techniques. So by a direct association with it, all right, all of this is going to be handled for you, and then you'll be able to kickstart the protection of it. So, back to your question, the answer is no. You don't have to change any of this routing configuration or anything in your application in order to be able to protect your applications against those common web application layer threats.
Oh, thanks, Long. I guess that's quite easy then. If we don't have to, or customers don't have to do any changes with the configuration in just routing, because that takes a lot of effort, a lot of testing as well. So that's great news. I guess another question I usually get from customers when they enable WAF, some of the security teams, like maybe a hypermodel or some sort of control on these rules. So can WAF be used for detection and blocking, or detection versus blocking, a mix of both?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the answer is definitely yes. So even whether you're on managed rules or whether you are on custom rules, right, you have the ability to test it out first by changing the action for them into count. Count meaning that we'll do the inspection, but we'll allow the request to go through. And then from your analysis, all right, so you're doing a retrospective analysis from the logs, that you can very quickly identify whether there were matches, all right, and then of course you can look out for those because of your unique use cases, whether you want to turn them on to begin the blocking or not. So yes, you're able to quickly turn this action to the count, Then after which you can analyze them to check if they are able, all right, to detect it. And then once you have confirmed, all right, that you want to enable some of these rules to begin the blocking process of it, then you can easily turn them on. Yep.
Cool. That's really nice. And I guess it gives lots of flexibility to cyber team if they want to investigate first before they start blocking or make a decision. Is that something, yes, we know about, so leave it on, we're just going to monitor it, or turn on the blocking mode. So cool for that. I guess the other question I always get is, when we have WAF, are we able to customize WAF rule to suit the customer application and its own characteristics?
Yep. So yeah, with the beauty, of course, to be able to deploy your applications onto AWS is the hyper flexibility that comes along with it, right? So you can build different kind of applications, have different kind of architecture for them. And as a result of that, we know exactly, right, why customers need that flexibility when it comes to having WAF as the protection mechanism for that. So yes, you're able to easily customize your rules. So one really straightforward example is if you're expecting HTTP method of GET, and you can specify this in the WAF rule to say that, okay, if it's a GET request, okay, then I allow this request to go through. If it is not a GET request, so if a bad actor decided to put delete, decided to put post, right? So they're changing up the request. In that case, you can very quickly be able to block out this type of request by mapping. All right, so maybe you're going through your customer journey map, all right, and you know exactly what type of requests are coming in. And then with that in mind, you'll be able to do those mappings onto AWS WAF to begin the protection of them. Yep.
That's, I guess, quite powerful feature, right? Because if customers know their application, know what type of request the application should receive, then it's very easy to tune these rules to fit the application characteristics. Like Leon was saying, if receiving HTTP or certain GET request, then that's what would be allowed and also monitored, not just allowed, and everything else should be really blocked. So it's quite powerful. And thanks very much, Leon, for your time today. It was really great, insightful, and I hope to see you next month with security and governance announcement.
Yes, thanks. Thanks, Robert and team.
Cheers. I'll bring back Napoli and Platts in the Platts lounge, I do believe, this time.
Yeah, thank you, Yang. That was amazing. I always enjoy your YouTube videos as well. So keep up the great work. I'm sure we'll have you back pretty soon. So we're going to finish off with compute. We've got a couple of updates around Lambda, around backup, and VPC. But before we do that, I'm just going to bring Samir back. Samir has found the answer to the question that we had previously. Samir, do you want to? I think it was Shaney that had a question around the availability groups. Could you get back to him, please?
Yeah. So just to explain that very quickly, we don't replicate MSDB databases, be it database mirroring or be it always-on availability group. In both cases, we don't replicate. And if you have created any jobs on the primary database, yes, they would disappear when you do a failover. But what I recommend customers to avoid that scenario is you create these jobs during your maintenance window, so that you can add a job on primary database, do a failover, so that there is a new primary now, add the job there as well, and then you're good to go, because now the job is configured in both databases. So any future failovers will not affect the job's availability or visibility on the database instance.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Samir. Really appreciate it. We'll move over to compute now, and I should say to everyone listening, Samir and Yang are both technical account managers in enterprise support. So as you can see, we've got a pretty broad and varied set of technology capabilities. But right now we're talking compute, and I know this is your favorite. This is your favorite topic, Matt. So let's start with Lambda. Okay, so .NET 6 managed runtimes. Look, I'm sure there's a long list of reasons why people would want to use this, but maybe tell us some of the headlines. What do people need to know about using this as either a managed runtime or a container-based image?
Yeah, sure, Mark. So Kind of taking a step back, right? So Microsoft released .NET 6 in November of last year, so just only a few months ago. It is their new long-term support version, so their LTS. A lot of buzz around it. There's a lot of new features, a lot of interesting things that they've baked into .NET 6. At a high level, performance is better JSON support, open telemetry support's baked in as well. When it comes to AWS and managed runtimes, container-based images, for example, we had some early adopters. So we had some customers that were very, very keen to use .NET 6 on Lambda straight away. So they've already had that opportunity by using a custom runtime. So they've gone ahead and started building out their serverless applications. And what we've just released recently is now we've got our managed runtime and the container-based images now. So for the early adopters, for the customers that wanted to start getting in there, writing some code, they have the ability now to switch, and we can take some of that undifferentiated lifting as well. There would have been a few customers that were waiting for us just to release our managed runtimes, and they can just start baking in that right from day zero. So it's good for them to know that that's available now as well.
Did you mention ARM64 support?
Yeah, I was just about to go through some of the
Graviton?
headliner features. Yeah, that's right. So .NET 6 from a headliner features, it's pretty big changes. Like I said, they've got ARM64 support. So things such as Graviton 2, Mac Silicon, even Windows ARM. That's all now on the table when it comes to developing your applications and your workloads. Other features such as hot reload, which allows you to basically update your source code and without any restarts, it just starts working. Maybe a little bit less relevant in production, at least when it comes to blue-green deployments and canary releases, but in a non-production sense, that could definitely be useful as well for devs. And the last one as well is it's got preview support for HTTP 3. So it's got HTTP 3 has a new general purpose transport layer for anyone who's not familiar with it, called a QUIC, pronounced quick. And it effectively just establishes connections much more efficiently and a lot quicker as well. The connections are independent of IP address, which obviously is a lot more astute to the mobile world that we're in these days, where you're moving across between different Wi-Fi networks or mobile.
Or devices.
So
constantly.
Any devs, highly recommend to check it out. And if you were waiting for a Lambda runtime, you've got one now. So jump in and have a bit of a play.
I might be showing my age here, Matt, but I remember when .NET Runtime wasn't available on Lambda when I started leveraging Lambda. So that's it's really exciting to see this out there. And I know you mentioned LTS, and I think when I read the release, I think the long-term support is slated to go all the way to November 2024. So just a bit of a FYI for the folks on the stream. That's a really, really interesting release. And I know you've got another one here around AWS backup and private link support.
Yes, that's right. So I thought I'd mention this one for a couple of lenses, to be honest. One is just a quick refresher on AWS backup, how easily it helps back up and manage your workloads, and also just a note around private link as well. So at a high level, private link allows and provides access to AWS services without the need of an internet gateway. So that's a bit of a game changer when you think about it in the sense of simplification for your private network architecture. If you do have a workload that doesn't need, it's a non-public workload, it doesn't need to be sitting out on the internet. Now we've got the ability with private link to connect that VPC, connect it directly to an AWS set of services, and securely access that data. Stepping closer now towards maybe just AWS backup in general. For anyone who hasn't used it, I highly recommend just to jump in and take a look. It's very, very simple. You go in there, you create a backup plan, which has a frequency and some retention policies. You assign that to a set of services, EC2, S3, EBS, EFS. It's fairly extensive. And then behind the scenes, it just takes care of all of that. So it'll take care of your backups, the retention, and it'll make sure that they're running successfully. Lucky last, because I'm conscious of time. Lucky last is around just continuing the theme from what Rovan was mentioning around security, and where VPC now supports and. Sorry, what was that?
I was just going to say this one I think is quite an important one from a security perspective, because what customers have been doing to date with this is managing their own lists, right, of IP addresses or IP ranges, I should say, to protect from, make sure you're only getting touched by CloudFront origin facing servers. So Is
Yes,
this
that's right.
sort of more removal of undifferentiated heavy lifting for customers?
Yeah, that's right. And the other thing I'd say to that as well, Mark, is that it's a very common pattern we have, which is a web workload secured by CloudFront. And a lot of customers have that as a bit of an architectural pattern. So what we have here now is further movement towards that undifferentiated heavy lifting, where we can a customer can take an AWS managed prefix list and then just bake that either into the VPC, subnet route tables, into the security groups, or basically anywhere that you can specify a managed prefix list. And that'll just
Gotcha.
give you that
Easy.
further assurance that nothing's coming into your compute or load balancers that isn't coming from a CloudFront origin.
I think even your dog's excited about that one, Matt. I could hear it barking in the background there.
Oh,
So
that's mine. That's mine. Apologies.
Yeah, that might be Carlos's. Mine's sitting right in the corner beside me, sleeping. But
well trained.
Very
Cool.
well
All right.
trained.
Thank you, Matt. I have a few more questions in the chat. KLP was asking about the new way of establishing secured connections. I'm not sure if we'll have a chance to get to that because we're running pretty short on time.
Yeah.
But Twisted Seed, no, we won't be distributing these slides, but all of these releases can be found on our What's New page, and across all of the 271 releases since the beginning of the year. So you can find all of the information there on them. We're going to be back next month with a whole new round of releases. So thank you to Rovan, Carlos, and Matt from Enterprise Support. And to all of our guests, I might just bring you all in for a wave. Really appreciate you spending the time with us today. And for those of you that listened in, I hope you enjoyed the show. We will see you next month. Take care.
Take care, everyone.
See you, everyone.
Ciao.